Welcome to 55 Plus Options Programme, Module 3. I'm Keith O'Malley of Law Society Career Support Service. 55 Plus Options Programme is relevant to solicitors who are aged 55 and beyond. And this module, Module 3, is very much focused on employment seeking and getting a job. We're going to look at 5 different aspects. We're going to look at the options that are open to you. We're going to look at strengths that people over the age of 55 tend to have over younger people and younger solicitors. We're going to look at strategies that are available, resources that you can use, and also some tips regarding selling yourself. So, in terms of options, there are a wide number of options. I've been thinking in terms of 12 different ones. The first 3 would be you can work as a solicitor on a full-time basis. You can also work in an aligned job on a full-time basis. An aligned job might be anything where you're using your legal skills but not necessarily are operating as a practicing solicitor. So you could, for example, be lecturing, or you could be working as a communications or policy officer for a not-for-profit. The third option is you could be working full-time in a different job, something that has nothing to do with law and where you have moved away from the profession. So you could be working as a life coach on a full-time basis. You could be working as a psychotherapist, obviously with training and qualification and that. Then the next 3 options are you could be working part-time as a solicitor. You could be working part-time in an aligned job. Again, something like, it could be anything from recruitment, legal recruitment, which is yes, you're using some aspect of your legal skills, but you're not working as a practicing solicitor, through to working part-time in a different job that has nothing to do with law. So you could be working in retail or something else like that. You could, other options are you could be working a portfolio career. This is something that we covered in earlier modules, where you're working a day or 2 week doing one thing, you're working a day or 2 doing something else, and maybe some other time working you've got a third involvement. You could be working on a self-employed basis, where you're invoicing for work and you're not on anyone's payroll. You've got the option to collaborate. If you meet somebody and they say that they're quite interested in the whole area of GDPR, for instance, you may say, oh, I'd like to do that, and you might work on that with them, either on a full-time basis or as part of a portfolio of involvements. You can, as we talked about in earlier modules, there are directorships open to solicitors, and you can go down the route of taking on some directorships, either paid or unpaid. You can get involved in a whole range of home-based businesses, anything from making honey or cultivating honey through to making candles. And the final option out of the 12 that I was looking at was volunteering. You can volunteer, and either just because you're interested in volunteering, or that you are hoping to develop a skill out of that, and over time get into paid employment as a result of first volunteering. So, what kind of strengths do people at age 55 and beyond have over younger people? Well, in a job you tend to be need less supervision. You tend to be more credible with clients, and that if you're put in front of a client, and particularly an older client, that they're going to be more inclined to believe you and to follow your advice than somebody who's maybe 26 or 27 years of age. People who are age 55 and beyond tend to be better connected. You've been working for a longer time with lots of people, and they've tended to go out and be working in lots of different places, so that if you need something done, or you need an insight, or you need some advice, you tend to have somebody at your disposal who you can phone and you can get advice or help and support from. You're more trustworthy. How could you be more trustworthy if you're older? Well, quite simply, if you've been working for 25, 30 years, you know, and you haven't been caught doing something very untrustworthy, the likelihood is that you're more trustworthy. So as we get older, you know, we're entitled to consider ourselves to be more trustworthy than much younger people. You can try things out. You know, you've been in a job, you've got a good sense of you know, what you can do and what you can't do. So it's very easy to you know, and because of your connections, if you're particularly interested in something, you can try it out, see how you like it, and that. You tend to have more commercial acumen. So if you, compared to a younger person, so if some proposal is put to you, or you think of some idea, whatever, you can very, much easier than a younger person, you'll find, you know, make a judgment on whether it would be particularly lucrative, whether it would be a particularly good idea. And you tend to have a level of financial independence. You mightn't be, you know, in a situation where you can stop working for the rest of your life. But for example, if there was an opportunity to, you know, sail to around the Gulf of Hope that required 2 months off, and you were particularly interested in doing it, you could probably take the 2 months off. Much more likely to be able to do that than somebody who's maybe 33, 34 years of age with a young family. In terms of strategies that work well for people who are 55 and beyond in terms of getting a job, the first important one is project focus. Rather than try to be thinking in terms of getting a job, think more about projects they work. Another good idea is to be is to be focused on providing solutions rather than a job beggar. So don't be going to employers saying, here, can I have a job, can I have a job? Rather go to an employer and say, what about this as an idea for saving money or making more money, and I think I could assist you with it. It's terribly important for people over the age of 55 to be IT proficient, and you know, if you want to be taken seriously, this is something you're going to have to work at and try and stay right up to date on. It's also a good idea, a good strategy for people at the age of 55 to try opportunities. That if there's something that you think might interest you, you know, go in, volunteer maybe on the weekends or you know, for a limited time. Try it out and see how well it suits you. Another thing that's really important is networking. Networking is king in terms of finding out about opportunities. As we said earlier, one of your strengths is you've got a much bigger network than younger people. And people who are in their 50s and 60s tend to get opportunities through their network and through people that they know. Good idea is to work with people that you want to work with. So if you're particularly interested in working, for example, in not-for-profit, get involved with not-for-profit and start mixing with people who are working in not-for-profit. Be enterprising, so you know, be watching out for opportunities. For example, the moment GDPR is happening, you know, are there opportunities there? Could you go to a firm and say, you know, I could set up a GDPR team, you know, within your firm and provide your clients with more services, you know. Also important to leverage your wealth, that if you are relatively financial comfortable, then you can afford to take time off and maybe even you know, put some money in developing an idea or proposal. So they're all things that you are more able to do from the age in your 50s, in your 60s and 70s, and something that you should be thinking about doing. Resources. There are 4 types of CVs, and we're going to go through each of those and their relevance to you in a moment. You should really be emailing everything, and really what's terribly important is the email message. You should be trying to get you know, good at writing good email messages, and good email messages are email messages that appeal to the reader, that interest and engage the reader, and that's where dealing with matters that are important to them rather than matters that are important to you. Don't bother with writing covering letters if you're going to apply for jobs unless they've been particularly asked for. Covering letters to a large extent are gone now. Use the telephone anytime you can. You know, if you can pick up the phone and talk to somebody and inquire about something, do it. You never know you know what follows on from that conversation. LinkedIn is an interesting resource, but we don't see an awful lot of people at any age getting a job on through LinkedIn solicitors. So it's not something that we would suggest that you spend a lot of time at. In terms of CV choices, there are 4 CV formats that you can use, and we're going to go through each of those and talk about the relevance. The first is chronological format, the second is a functional format, the third is a one-page or a summary CV format, and the fourth is what I call a personal brochure. The first one, chronological CV, is the traditional CV format. It's where you list your job title and employer and length you were there, and then you give a few bullet points about what you did within that job. And it is the CV format that employers most prefer, and it's very good for somebody who has had consistent development within their career. So if you've been working for the last 10 years and maybe you've got a promotion or two, it demonstrates the way you've developed up into, you know, and really earned your place in the job that you're doing, and gained experience that's particularly relevant maybe to the job that you're applying. However, functional format CV works much better for a lot of people, particularly if you've been out of work for a while, maybe because you've taken a career break, maybe to look after family members or something else like that, or travel or whatever reason. Or also if you're thinking of changing from one job into another. So, you know, as we talked about a few moments ago, you know, somebody who is moving from a practicing solicitor job into a job as a lecturer or as a communications office for a not-for-profit. What they want to do is have their CV where it's, you know, not just demonstrating a huge gap between where they've been and where they now want to go, and a functional format CV works very well in that regard. It can either be a 1 or a 2-page page in length. I find that a 1-page works very well for a functional format. You know, but a 2-page also can work. It really depends on the amount of relevant experience you have for the job that you're applying. A 1-page summary CV is a very useful supplementary document. It's the kind of document that you can hand out to family and friends. It's not enough usually if you're applying for a job to give a 1-page CV to an employer. You know, the tradition is that what's expected is a 2-page CV, but a 1-page CV is like an introductory CV, and it's really, really useful. It provides an overview, but it's not too personal, doesn't give away too much information, and it means that you've still got a proper CV to hand over to an employer if some family member or a friend you know, gets a connection through the summary CV. You still can provide the employer with your longer 2-page CV. A personal brochure is a very interesting document, and it's particularly useful for people who are seeking project type work. It is forward focused as opposed to backward focused. A CV, by its nature, you know, as the term indicates, a story of a life, is, you know, about what's happened to date. But that's not the most important thing sometimes if you're out looking to you know, help people and provide solutions to problems, as you know, so often you should be doing if you're looking for project work, and a personal brochure works very well in that. Personal brochure really, what, you know, is center stage, is what you can do for the employer as opposed to what you've done elsewhere. We in Career Support have lots of examples, sample and templates, and we can provide them for you if you contact us. In terms of selling yourself, we would very much advise, you know, that old maxim of horses for courses. Solicitors who are, at the later stages in their careers, 55 and beyond, have an awful lot to offer employers, and an awful lot of employers are very interested in solicitors, in later life. But there are some jobs that, quite simply they want a younger person for, and it's difficult. You make it difficult on yourself if you're spending a lot of time applying for jobs where the employer is looking for somebody with an awful lot less experience than you have. So what we would suggest is, in as far as you can, spend your time where you've got an advantage over a younger person. And really an important area is informal opportunities. It is our experience if an employer advertises and has a day set aside for interviewing and that, they will those kind of formalized jobs will they're looking for somebody to fit into a particular team, and they tend to go for younger people, and older people find it difficult to access those kind of opportunities. But where somebody, an employer has a vague feeling, I need to get this job done, I don't know how I'm going to approach it, and you go to them and you say, I can do that, and you're not going to have to worry about it anymore. Suddenly you're in a much, much stronger position, you're playing to your strengths. So good idea, if you can develop proposals and bring proposals to employers. And the traditional classic ones tend to be either that you're coming up with ways that they can make additional money, or they can save, and reduce their costs. A practicing cert is something that, if you're going for a legal job, is useful to have, and any solicitor can, pay for a practicing cert. You can go to contact the Law Society and buy a practicing cert. But our advice is, don't buy a practicing cert in order to, improve your employability. Get a job, get a project or whatever, and then figure out how practicing cert is going to be organised, whether the employers or end user, the firm's going to pay for it, or whether you're going to pay for it. It can be done either way. But what we suggest is get your opportunity and then organise the practicing cert. That's the end of this module, Module 3. We hope you've enjoyed it. And it's been of benefit. If there's anything that we can help you with, please contact us. Give us a telephone call in Career Support anytime. If you want to call in and meet either myself or Will Slattery for one-to-one consultation, we're available, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.